There we go. There you go. Um, Good morning. Welcome to Think and Grow Rich Daily Hangout. I was a few minutes late today. I'm sorry. My internet box keeps timing out, and it just as I was starting the Hangout, so I had to go restart it. How are you, Geraldine? How is everything going?
Good. And you?
Yeah, good. Enjoying just quite excited about things. Are you still by the beach or?
Today I am, yeah. Yeah,
Ah, this is like
yeah.
your mobile home or?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, cool. I love that you've got
Mm.
Wi-Fi in it.
Yeah.
That's so good. Cool. So we're actually reading from lecture notes, Your Right to Be Rich, from lectures that Napoleon Hill did in the 1950s. And we were on page 12 of the third PDF, which I've posted in the Facebook group. I did actually write it down. Oh yeah, we are on page 12. Okay. So I thought I was being organized. um, so I can read, or would you like to read, Geraldine? I really don't mind.
I think you'll have to read because I haven't actually managed to download the notes yet. I must do that today,
Ah,
actually. Yeah.
okay, cool, no worries. So for people watching, so we've had a lot of new people joining the group, you can actually get the download from the Facebook group. If you scroll down the wall, I uploaded a whole bunch of them about 2 weeks ago. So they're like PDFs. They're about 20 pages each, and they're actually someone who put them together because the lectures are on YouTube, but he wrote these notes out, and they're really good. So okay, so we're going from page 12, and oh yeah, screen share. I was like, I'm forgetting something here. Oh, hi Glenn.
Hey,
Good
Glenn.
morning.
How are you today?
Doing just great.
Yay! I was just
You,
saying,
you know,
did you have
I
a good
got up
wedding
at 2
anniversary?
a.m. my time.
Happy wedding anniversary for yesterday, Glenn.
Well, thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
we had a nice time. We went to see Jersey Boys, remarkable, wonderful film, Clint Eastwood.
Ah,
Just amazingly good. Highly
cool.
recommend it.
It's so
Well, we're
funny
all
because I
kind
have the
of
screen
bouncing
share.
around here, aren't we?
Yeah, because I keep talking and the screen share's open. It keeps doing this weird magic trick. It's funny.
I see it. I see it.
Okay, I'll get the actual. Can you see the
Morning,
book now?
Geraldine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. So we're on page 12, and yes, the on Friday we were reading about a definite. Oh, going the extra mile. That was it.
Going the
Going the
extra
extra
mile.
mile and how it can actually help you become more successful. So okay, so here we go, page 12. Oh, excuse me. So, everywhere and everything, one may see the law of action and reaction in operation. Everything you do, everything you think, every thought that you release causes a reaction, if not on somebody else, on the person releasing the thought. When you release a thought, you're not through with it. Every thought that you express, silently even, becomes a definite part of the pattern of your subconscious mind. If you store that subconscious mind enough negative thoughts will be predominantly negative. If you follow the habit of releasing only the positive thoughts, your subconscious pattern will be predominantly positive. You will attract to you all of the things that you want. If you're negative, you'll repel the things you want and attract only the things you don't want. That's the law of nature too. This business of going the extra mile is one of the finest ways that Napoleon knew of educating your subconscious mind to attract to you the things that you want and to repel the things you don't want. If you neglect to develop and apply this principle of going the extra mile, you will never become personally successful and you will never become financially independent. The reason why Napoleon happened to know that is sound is because he had a great privilege of observing a great many thousands of people, some of whom applied the principle of going the extra mile, and some of whom did not. He had the privilege of finding out what happened to those who did and those who didn't. He knew that beyond any question of a doubt, that nobody ever rises above ordinary stations in life or mediocrity without a habit of going the extra mile. It just doesn't happen. If Napoleon had discovered one case, just one case, where somebody went on to the top without going the extra mile, He would say then there are exceptions, but he was in a position to say there are no exceptions because he never found that one case. He never had a major benefit of any kind in the world that he didn't get as a result of going the extra mile. Become self-determining so that you can do these things without the help of anybody. That's the time when the payoff will come to you, when you can go out and do anything in this world that you want to do, and whether anybody wants you to do it, or whether they want to help you, or whether they don't. You can do it on your own. Oh, excuse me. That's one of the grandest, most glorious feelings that Napoleon knew anything about. Whatever he wanted to do, he could do it. He didn't have to ask anybody, not even his wife. If he had to ask her, he would, but he was on good terms with her. Napoleon got peace of mind from going through 20 years of going the extra mile. Do you have any idea how many people there are in the world at any one time who are willing to do anything for 20 years in succession without getting something back of it? Do you have any idea how many people there are in this world who are willing to do something 3 days in succession without being sure they're going to get something out of it? You'd be surprised if you found out how few there are, and overlooking one of the grandest opportunities that a human being could possibly have, especially here in this country of ours, where we really can create our own destiny. We can express ourselves in any way that we want to. Speech is free, activity is free, education is free, a wonderful opportunity to get right in and go the extra mile in any direction you want to travel, and yet most people are not doing it. Napoleon had seen the time when there were not so many people interested in this principle. They were prosperous, doing all right, and had no troubles to speak of. Today, in 1954, everybody almost has troubles or thinks they do. Instead of finding out what's wrong with the rest of the world, Napoleon found out what he could do to correct himself. He had to eat with him, sleep with him, shave his face every morning, wash his face, give him a bath now and then. He had to live with the guy 24 hours a day. So he put in his time trying to improve himself, and through himself trying to improve his friends and students by writing books, delivering lectures, and teaching in other ways. It paid off very much better than if he would have sat down and read all the murder stories, all the divorce scandals, and everything that blazed across the pages every day. If Napoleon had his life to live over again, he would live it just exactly the way he had it. Oh my goodness. He would make all the mistakes he had made. He would have made them at the time in life when he made them, early, so he would have time left to correct some of them. That period during which he would come into peace of mind and understanding would be in the afternoon of life, not in the forenoon, because when you're young, you can take it. When you pass the noon hour and go into the afternoon, your energies are not as great oftentimes as they were before. To have the tranquility of peace of mind Napoleon had in the afternoon of life was one of the great joys that came out of this philosophy. If you asked Napoleon what had been his greatest compensation, he would say that's it, because there were so many people at his age, and even much younger than him, who haven't found peace of mind, and never will. They never will because they're looking for it in the wrong place. They're not doing anything about it and expecting someone else to do something about it for them. That peace of mind is something that you've got to get for yourself. You've got to earn it, first of all. That's how anybody can get peace of mind. You'd be surprised where you have to really start looking for it. Not where the average person is looking for it, out there in the joys of what money will buy, out there in the joys of recognition, fame, fortune, and what have you. Not there, but in the humility of the individual's own heart. Napoleon got peace of mind mostly in that third inner world where the wall is as high as eternity, where he went into meditation many times a day. There is where he got his real peace of mind. He could always withdraw into that inner wall, cut out every earthly influence, and come in with the highest forces of the universe. What a grand thing that is. Anybody can do that. You can do that. When you get through with this philosophy, you'll be able to do anything you want to do, just as well or better than anything Napoleon ever did. His hope was that, incidentally, every student of his eventually excelled him in every way that he knew possible. Maybe in writing books, or where he left off, and writing better books than he wrote. Napoleon considered himself as just a student, a fairly intelligent student, on the path, and the only state of perfection he had was that he found peace of mind and how to get it. Engage in at least one act of going the extra mile every day. You can choose your own circumstance if it's nothing more than telephoning an acquaintance and wishing them good fortune. You'll be surprised what will happen to you when you begin to call up your friends that you have been neglecting for some time and just say, "Hello, you were on my mind. I was thinking about you. I just wanted to call up and see how you're doing, and I hope you're feeling as good as I am." You'd be surprised what that will do to you and what that will do to the friend too. It doesn't have to be a close personal friend. It just has to be somebody you know. Or you may relieve some friend from a duty for half an hour or so, or have some neighbours send over their children while they attend the movies. It would be a nice thing for people who don't have children to say, "Why don't you and your husband go on a little courtship, go out to the movies, let me come over and babysit for you." You have to know your neighbours pretty well in order to do that. Certainly most of you have some neighbour that you could approach on such basis and they wouldn't think you were crazy. It's not so much what you do to the other person, it's what you do to yourself by finding ways and means of going the extra mile in the little ways. Did you know that both the successes in life and failures are made up of little things? Very little things. So little, in fact, that oftentimes they're overlooked. The real reasons for success is overlooked, because the things that make success are so small in seemingly insignificant things. Napoleon knew some people so popular they couldn't have an enemy. They just couldn't have an enemy. One of them was his distinguished business associate, Mr. Stone, always going the extra mile. Look how prosperous he is. Look how many people are going the extra mile for him. There are a lot of people who, if they didn't make good money working for Mr. Stone, they would pay him a salary even to work for him. One person did just that, and he's become immensely wealthy himself working for Mr. Stone. He said, "If I didn't make money out of working for him, I'd pay him if I had to, just for the association with him." Mr. Stone is not different from you, from me, or anybody else except in his mental attitude towards people, towards himself. He makes it his business to go the extra mile. Sometimes people take advantage of that. Don't act fairly with him. Napoleon had seen that happen too. Mr. Stone didn't worry about that too much. In fact, he didn't worry about anything at all. He learned to adjust himself to life in such a way that he got a great joy out of living and a great joy out of people. The most wonderful person in the world is yourself. The first trait of a pleasing personality always is a positive mental attitude, because nobody wants to be around a person who is negative. No matter what other traits you may have, if you don't have a PMA, at least when you're in the presence of people, you're not going to be considered to have a pleasing personality. Rate yourself anywhere on that from 0 to 100. If you can rate 100 on that, you'll be up in the class with Frederick Roosevelt, FDR. That's pretty high. The next trait is flexibility, the ability to adjust yourself to the varying circumstances of life without going down under them. There are a lot of people in this world who are so staid, fixed or permanent in their habits and in their mental attitude that they cannot adjust to anything that's unpleasant or anything they don't agree with. Do you know why FDR was one of the most, if not the most popular president in Napoleon's generation? It's because he could be all things to all people. Napoleon had been in his office when senators and congressmen would come in there ready to cut his throat, and they would leave singing his praises because he adjusted himself to their mental attitude, and he didn't get mad at the same time the other fellow did. That's a mighty good way of adjusting. Learn to be flexible and don't get mad when the other fellow is mad. If you want to get mad, do it on your own account when the other fellow is in a good humour, and you'll have a much better chance of not getting hurt. Napoleon had seen presidents of the United States come and go. He was associated with several of them, and he knew what the factor of flexibility can mean in the highest office in the world. Herbert Hoover probably was one of the best business executives we've ever had in the White House, and yet he couldn't possibly sell himself to the people a second time because he was inflexible. He could not bend. He was too static, too fixed. Calvin Coolidge was the same way, and Woodrow Wilson to some extent was the same way. He was too austere, too static, too fixed, too correct. In other words, He wouldn't allow anybody to slap him on the shoulder, call him Woody, or take any personal liberties with him at all. There's so many things in this life that you have to adjust yourself to temporarily if you're going to have peace of mind and good health. You might as well start in now learning to do it, and if you're not flexible, you can become flexible. Okay, I'll stop there because then it goes on to a different thing, which is a pleasing tone of voice. Okay, so oh, hey. So
There we are.
yeah. So what are your initial thoughts? He's talking about being flexible and a little bit more about going the extra mile. Still.
And positive mental attitude too,
That's
right?
true.
Positive mental attitude. So
Yeah.
important. It really is in anything you do, you know. Are we keeping you awake, Sandy?
Yeah, I know. I'm not sure what's wrong with my. I woke up a while ago, so I'm not sure what I said. I had a little nap before the hangout because I was feeling sleepy, even though it's it's only 11 o'clock. I think I'm still adjusting from going to America.
Yeah. Yeah, I got up at 2 a.m. this morning, our time, you know, 2 a.m.
2
I couldn't
a.m.
sleep. 2 a.m. I had a lot of things going in my brain, you know. So I just thought I'd get up and maybe do some work, you know, on things, meditation and so on, you know.
Wow.
So, you know.
And you're not yawning.
No, not right now. But you know, I'll take my nap, of course, later, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I woke up, I was drooling.
I've had that happen too. Yeah, I've had that happen too.
Yeah. It's funny. And then as soon as I started reading, I had, even now, I kept feeling this need to yawn. I was like, oh no, stop it. Oh dear.
So when are you leaving for Portugal? Have you identified the time yet?
Yeah, this time next week actually, on the 14th. So yeah, on Bastille Day.
Bastille Day, right? Yeah. Oh my goodness. You're not
Yeah.
going to hang around for the fireworks.
Yeah, that's a good point. No. I guess it's a good day to leave because it's a typically French day and I'm quite happy to be going to a new country. So but do you guys know much about Frederick Roosevelt? Because he was the president who was in a wheelchair, wasn't he?
Yes, for Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Yeah, he was quite an amazing man, actually. He was in a wheelchair, and there's a movie. I'm kind of a movie buff. There's a movie called Sunset at Campobello, I think it is. One of
Yeah.
the stories about him, and there have been many television things done on him too. And he was very well. Look at what he overcame, right? And look what he was able to create,
Yeah.
right? During the Depression, right? During one of the toughest times in this country. And you know, through my life growing up, I knew a lot of people that lived through the Depression and heard the stories, and they were very inspired by him. You know, they were.
Yeah. Because it was
And
him coming into
he was
office.
100 on the PMA scale, right?
Sorry?
He was 100 on the PMA scale.
Yeah.
You know,
So,
on the positive mental attitude scale.
Ah.
so I wondered why he was like that. Do you know if he naturally was, or did he have to work on that, or?
You know, I don't know much about the genesis of that, but I think he had it pretty much from a young person, even when he encountered the polio and so on. You know,
Yeah.
I think he had that strength. You know, that attitude. You know, that thing that carried him through. You know.
Yeah. And he was the one that changed the way people spoke about the Depression, wasn't he? He must have understood that the words that we use, the things we talk about, have an effect, especially if there's everyone doing it.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And remember, Napoleon Hill actually worked with him. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that was very important, I think, in the book, and then these notes, these lecture notes that you're doing, Sandy, are kind of like a condensed concept, trying to get to a lot of the book's contents. But one of the things about reading the book that I heard from Bob Proctor is he said he's been reading it since he was 26 years old, and he reads it every day. And he said every time he reads it, he finds something new about himself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well,
It
when
isn't,
we finish these
it's
notes,
not. It isn't just the knowledge there, but it's the uncovering of your own
self.
truth about yourself. Right? Very powerful.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Like sometimes people say, "Oh, I've read the book 10 times or 12 times," but they don't seem to have applied much of it, or
Right.
at least not in like ways that you can see. So I think it's not just about it's not just reading it. It's actually how you become more
Just
consciously aware as you read it, as you're saying. But we'll read it again. I just wanted to read these notes because they're interesting too, I think, and they sort of give a different angle on it.
Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah.
And have you guys ever sort of come across anyone that you personally know or know of that goes the extra mile that you can,
Oh yeah.
or have you seen this in your own lives? When you've applied that.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen it a lot. I have some wonderful friends that are amazing people, and you can see the abundance in their lives and their love and their giving, and they go the extra mile in everything they do. It definitely is a practice that's worth you know remember the giving act itself. If you're the initiator of the giving, you're getting good just in that alone, right? In that
Yeah.
going, in that going that extra mile, you are.
Yeah. And do you think those friends that they do that just because it's their nature, or did they did consciously choose to do that more, or?
I think the people that I've seen, observed, are operating at a pretty high level because of that,
Yeah.
right? In other words, they're operating at they're in touch with the world, right? With the universe,
Yeah.
very powerful.
Cool. And what about you, Geraldine?
Well, I was just thinking that I think there's a real connection between having a positive mental attitude and going the extra mile, because it would be very difficult if you didn't have that positive mental attitude. You can very easily slip into, oh, what's the point? Just do the
Yeah.
bare.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I find that interesting that if you cultivate that positive mental attitude, then it's nearly like the going the extra mile just comes really naturally because you're so engaged, and the positivity sort of creates positivity, and you get into that really engaged, inspired energy. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you wouldn't climb up a mountain if you couldn't see the top of it, or if you weren't positive enough to know that you could get to the top or whatever, or climb across a river.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. And it reminds me of, I can't remember if I mentioned this last week. I might have done. I remember hearing about positive mental attitude when I was a teenager, because not that I read any personal development or anyone around me did, but I read the biography of a British athlete, and he talked about it in his book. So I remember saying to my friends, PMA, you've got to have a PMA. I didn't really understand it very much. To me, it sounded just quite catchy. And he was actually a champion, like an Olympic champion, national champion. He won loads of competitions. Unfortunately, he was later found to use steroids. Linford Christie, his name is. Oh, I did talk about him. I just remembered now because I mentioned that his nickname was the Lunchbox. Yeah. Because he used to wear really tight cycling shorts. But he did have this very strong focus that he was going to win. He wouldn't allow himself to imagine not winning his races. And you could tell before each race that he did that he was very focused, because he would literally stare at the finish line and nothing else, and would be stretching and moving around, but his eyes would be just stuck to that finish line. Even though, and he would, I might try and find a YouTube video of it actually. Everyone else would be kind of bopping around and doing all kinds of things, and it was just him that would be like staring fixedly at it, and then he'd go and win. So it obviously, I think, did something. It, gave him that confidence to realize that he could do it. So. Hey,
by the way, I really love your reporting from Charlotte. Wonderful.
Oh, thanks.
Wonderful work. Wonderful work, really. I mean, fun, fun stuff that you did in your spare time then, right?
Yeah, I know. I just had a day or two, really, and I was thinking, well, I would spend longer next time, because it's just fun to sort of go around and find quirky things that people haven't noticed.
I love that. Yeah, spontaneous when you're traveling, right? Spontaneity.
Yeah. Oh, and like I visited a Carnegie library. I know you guys might have seen.
I saw it.
Yeah. For people who might not know what that is, it's basically in the This is a great example, I believe, of how when you have wealth, you can use it in conscious ways. Andrew Carnegie, who's encouraged Napoleon Hill to start this book, Think and Grow Rich, he was the one that told him to do it, and gave him all his black address book with all his contacts in it. He had started from nothing, a very poor background in Scotland in the UK, and he read a lot of books, and he attributed books to helping him keep moving forwards all through his life and become. He was like the Richard Branson of the 19th century. He was so successful, the richest man on the planet, and he paid for libraries all over the United States, because he said that they were like a spring in the desert, and people needed to be able to read books. And so I visited one. It was really cool. I felt like I was
great. Janet and I, when we were courting, we used to go to the Carnegie Library in Anaheim, California, and I think I wrote you a note on that too.
Yeah, that it had been closed
down, actually
had
converted over to a historical society, because it was too small for the city. It had grown quite a bit, with Disneyland and all that there,
yeah. Oh.
Yeah. But it was a charming place to be when we were young kids, It was kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, I liked this one because it had, in the elevator, the doors, they had I can. So when it closed, it would it would say I can, and
I can.
Yeah, and that's like the logo of the library. I might even have it with me. I don't know. Everything is about you can make things happen, and it was all of there was stuff for young people, for entrepreneurs, for mums. It was busy when I went in there, so I really liked it. I was happy to have gone.
Yeah, and if we want to see somebody with a positive mental attitude, I think people should look for your video on Vic the Chili Man.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Oh, my goodness. Now, there's a good example of somebody in our lives right now,
Yeah, exactly. Right? Yeah, and his chili is just amazing. I didn't eat it before the video. I ate it after I'd finished making that video. I was like,
oh, how was it, by the way?
It was delicious. I almost wanted to go back and get another one, but I thought I might look a bit greedy. It was really good, though. Oh, my God. Like the best hot dog I've ever had in my life.
Well,
so, great. Basically, this guy, for people who don't know what we're talking about, he used to work in restaurants, but he's very charismatic, a funny guy, and his wife suggested to him he start a hot dog stand. And because he liked cooking and he could actually sort of just be his own boss. And so he did, and he's so funny. You know, like when I was there, I didn't get it on the video, unfortunately, but I thought I had. Like people would come up, he's like, "Hi, Moon Eyes, what can I get you?" to guys, you know, and he'll shout out, "Hey, Sleepy, what are you having today?" And
Yeah.
he's been interviewed by the New York Times, he's been in films, and he's just a real character. So you know, you don't just get a hot dog, you get entertainment. He makes you laugh and
Yeah.
smile, and you get great food. So great example of that, Glenn.
And he has a Facebook page too.
Yeah. Oh,
Interesting.
yeah. I've got a post on that today. Yeah. Cool. All
A
right.
couple
Well,
good example.
yeah, exactly. So Vic the Chili Man. If you want to watch that video, just go to my Facebook wall. So
Yeah.
just to recap today, we looked at going the extra mile, having a positive mental attitude, and being flexible, which we didn't really talk about so much, but he'll talk about it again tomorrow in lecture notes there. So see you tomorrow. Thanks for
Yeah,
coming on, guys.
Okay.
guys. Have a
Okay.
lovely
Bye
day.
bye,
Great
Jeremy.
Monday,
Bye.
Bye, Sandy.
and see you soon.
Yeah,
Okay. Bye
bye.
bye.
Bye.